Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Happy to be back. Today we're talking about DeMarvion Overshown. Went on Twitter today and said that he is going to sit out. He's going to sit out all team activities until he sees real change, real action taken at the University of Texas regarding the black student athletes' demands for change on campus, whether traditions or statues and certain things that they would like to see change, to bring a more inclusive environment and feel to the university. We're going to talk about it. First off, I just want to say thank you and give a quick shout out to all of you who have reached out over the last week that participated in last week's live chat. We're going to continue to have more of that content and stuff for you guys. And those of you who have joined the Fanatic Perspective channel recently, thank you. And I'm very, very appreciative of all of the messages and the interactions I receive, especially on serious topics like this. And as we continue to address these things, I've told you guys from jump, we will never shy away from these issues on this channel, on this platform. We're here to stay. So regarding DeMarvion Overshown, so I talked about June 12th, and I made a video about the significance of June 12th and all the major things that happened that particular day. And the momentum, obviously, from the murder of George Floyd and all the things and all the civil unrest that is happening around our country, and folks being upset, folks being tired, saying enough is enough. Now action needs to be taken, and on top of the momentum and the conversations that we're having, want to see change. So DeMarvion Overshown, as well as before I made the video on Brennan Eagles, folks that are saying on this football team that are, I hate to say it this way, but putting their money where their mouth is and giving up whatever privileges they have, using the platform they have. And this is how they see a beginning to at least addressing and utilizing that leverage that they have as athletes to drive awareness to this and ultimately get what they want. So now, in regards to the frustrations that Mr. Overshown laid out in his tweet, he did talk about, hey, certain things that we've been told are happening behind closed doors. However, we have always been preached to have a sense of urgency at our school, and we don't see that sense of urgency being applied to our issues. Now, I've heard a lot of people, social media has reacted very strongly as you can imagine. And I've heard a lot of people say, hey, things can't happen overnight. Change can't happen overnight. There's got to be a process, especially the type of changes you guys are asking for. And that's even outside of Eyes of Texas, right? Eyes of Texas got a lot of the, especially since that was the last one on there and that was the one that affects the fans the most. But from a holistic view of all of their demands, some of these are a lot more difficult to do than uninstalling a song when the season starts or if it starts, right? So those are all, you have to factor that in. Now, in regards to the timeline and what's realistic and what's not, yeah, you could say that, there's a lot that has to happen behind the scenes. Board of Regents, we have an interim president right now. For those who don't know, Greg Fenves went on to Emory a few months ago. Chris Del Conte's trying to navigate this situation. There's a lot of moving pieces here, also trying to appease donors and people that have a lot of influence within the program who you may not know their names. So all these things are happening behind the scenes. But when players see the quick changes that happen at the University of Florida and they get rid of the term Gator bait, you see the energy and that momentum being used in the Mississippi flag situation where they're able to remove the Confederate flag from the state flag and legislative change happens. Like, those things happen very, very quickly. Now, I know there was a lot of momentum behind the scenes, especially in the Mississippi flag situation for many, many years, but it happened now because of the George Floyd post-aftermath and the movement that's going on in our country. And so the burden to respond and the responsibility to respond, I should say, is on the University of Texas to address this, because June 15th, that Monday rolled around, they put out a kind of light statement, if anything, saying, we care about our students. We'll talk to them, blah, blah, blah. June 17th, according to reports, Chris Del Conte and the interim president met with the football team. That's the last I've heard of any type of dialogue with any of the athletes at the school. Now, if any other things have happened, please let me know. But if there hasn't even been a discussion around timelines and just a dialogue of where they're at, just a regular cadence, and it doesn't have to be every single Black athlete at the school, but they could have a board where they meet with these students to keep them informed on their progress. And it sounds like either that's not happening or their other players are not liking what they're hearing on the other side of these conversations. So I'm curious to find out what the chain of dialogue is between the two parties. Now, in regards to DeMarvion Overshown, he is one of the high upside guys on our entire football team. He is someone who was moving from the safety room to the linebacker room, and we have very high hopes for as fans. I mean, the live chats I do, his name comes up so often because everyone's excited for his skill set. We think high end, high upside could be the next, Isaiah Simmons type of football player for us that changes our fortunes and leads us to a place. But I've heard a lot of people say, actually, before I get to that point, I will say this. The player, because I want to get to the player and then I'll get to the value aspect, because there's some things going on here that I think needs to be addressed. Now, in regards to the player, according to 24/7, when he came out, I believe he was the number 28 player in the country. Was either 1 or 2 at the safety position, measurables through the roof, everything you look for. He held, I think, almost 30 offers, 30 Division I offers. You're talking about the likes of Alabama, Clemson, LSU, Texas A&M, Florida, Georgia, Ohio State, OU, Oklahoma State. All of those teams offered him a scholarship to attend their university and secure his services. So please miss me with the Texas is giving him a free education and the whole free education argument, when he was somebody that the school went out and recruited to bring in to utilize his services. And we'll get into some of the financial ramifications behind that. But we have to keep in mind it goes both ways. Yes, he is receiving an education, a world-class education at the University of Texas that he can hopefully parlay into future success and in his life. But let's not act like, the University of Texas came and plucked him out of the hood and brought him over to the school when he had no other avenues. He was a hot commodity on the street. As I said before, he was a top 30 player coming out of high school. This isn't a free education would incite some sort of charitable donation to someone. The amount of work that is put in, and I appreciate Byron Vaughn's mother retweeting the woman from Iowa that talked about the rigors of the student athlete experience, especially from those who are football players, but across the board. I talk to you guys all the time about my brother-in-law who played baseball at Louisiana Tech and the rigors they went through there, the travel, the lack of interaction on the campus, because they are constantly in motion. We need more day in the life features for these athletes, because I can tell by some of the comments, either people have no idea what they go through outside of what they see them on the field on Saturdays or what they see in a movie about the life of a jock or a football player, or you've never played a sport or been a student athlete yourself. I juggled a lot of that stuff when I was a football player in high school, so I can only imagine what you're juggling on your plate from a standpoint of being a student athlete at the collegiate level, because there's 3 tiers of pressure you have to deal with at the collegiate level. There's the physical tier, there's the mental aspect, and then social tier, and then there's also the educational tier. Of all these things, there are pressures for you to perform, pressures to stay healthy, pressures to take care of your body and to maximize your physical potential so you can go off and hopefully have a professional career in your sport before you start your life. The societal pressures. Look at DeMarvion Overshown's Twitter and how people have responded. Look at the players that have come to his defense and how people have responded. Many positive, some negative, and some flat out disrespectful cursing the man's name. And this isn't just in relation to racial issues or any of the heat we're seeing now. Now, we are seeing people that are two-faced that don't love the players as much as they claim they do. We are seeing that. But even from a societal standpoint, if you're the Alabama kicker that missed that kick in the Auburn game last year and you received death threats, you're not a normal college student, bro. You're just not. I don't know a normal college student that is under that type of pressure from society over a test, over a biology exam, to where if they don't get a certain grade, they may not be able to show their face in public for a while. That happens in college football. So we've seen it here in Austin, Texas. Look at how y'all talk about Chris Sims 30 years later, 20 years later. Come on. So knock it off. These are not normal college students. So we have to. That's why I'm so frustrated with the people that keep saying, well, we're giving them $50K a year, education, blah, blah, blah. When the football program, I believe 2018, 2019, generated $144 million in revenue. And a lot of that turns in, depending on how you want to justify it in the athletic department, 224 plus million of revenue generated, almost $20 million in just net profit off of that. So please miss me with the 50K. And that doesn't even include folks like Sam Ehlinger, who, because he's not allowed to currently make money off of his likeness, because I'm not an advocate of the schools paying the players. And I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but I'll come back to the DeMarvion stuff. But I'm not an advocate of the schools paying the players. However, Sam Ehlinger doesn't have the ability to go off and make money from another party or another business. And when they did the evaluations, we talked about this on the live chat the other last week. He's over $900K, almost $1 million in terms of his social media influence and what he could generate from income. So stop comparing people like that to normal college kids. I went to college. I was not under the same type of pressure in any regard, nor was I under the same type of demand from a schedule perspective. If I missed a class, nobody cared, okay? As long as I showed up and handled my tests and handled my homework and did my studies, that the only pressure I was getting was from my parents. These guys are under pressure to perform for their coaches, their family, the fans, the overall program, the university. It's a completely different experience. And on top of that, they do not get to participate in normal activities. Some of them periodically maybe, but overall, they're on such a tight schedule. Casey Thompson did a good job a while ago putting out, I think it was Casey Thompson or somebody had put out or shared their schedule of what they had to do, even during bowl prep. And it was remarkable, hour by hour block by hour block of everything that they're responsible for, from weightlift to even how they're spending their downtime. That's all. No other college kid has to deal with that from a discipline standpoint. Yeah, you have kids that are working jobs, which the players are not allowed to do. But from, a grander perspective, and this is something that all athletes are facing, not football players, swim, dive, any other sport you want to bring up, volleyball, the demands, the physical demands, the emotional, societal demands, and the educational demands. You still got to meet academic requirements and show up and get your schoolwork done. So I care about their opinions. That's the point I'm getting to. I care about what they have to say, and I care especially when a player feels so strongly, even though I don't agree with him per se sitting out. I said that with the Brennan Eagles video. I don't agree with them sitting out. However, I support them. I will listen to them. And I will stand by them and make sure that these brothers, because I agree with their message and I agree with what they're trying to get accomplished. And that's the biggest thing, right? So if it was me, yeah, I would play. And they also have to be aware of what they are now putting on themselves if this goes out, say football comes back on time and they're still not around, things haven't gone the way they thought they were going to go from the response of the university. Well, they are in contractual, because I don't look at it as even free education. It's more of agreement that you give me your football abilities and help me generate revenue for the school, and in return we'll give you an education. It's an even transaction. Nobody's giving me anything for free. That is very, very inaccurate, right? So in that transaction that is happening between the University of Texas and DeMarvion Overshown, he does have to play football. That's part of the agreement. So if he decides to sit, albeit for a very admirable issue, there could be problems down the road for him or Brennan Eagles. So, and I also think they should play just to elevate their platform, because I think they both have NFL potential that could, A, financially help their families, and B, raise a bigger platform for them to do more, especially with the, the money, the sponsorships. Corporate entities are backing this movement like we've never seen before. The energy is there, but that's more of a long-term projection, assuming they handle their business. I admire these brothers. I admire their sense of urgency, and I will continue to listen and support them. But just to sum this all up, I do appreciate the fact that the one athlete he mentioned in his tweet, and this is what I'll end on, was Maya Moore. And Maya Moore will be remembered beautifully in history because she walked away. First off, she was a badass at Duke. I remember her back in the day. Then she's gone to WNBA, MVP, one of the best female basketball players on the planet Earth. Walks away. Man by the name of Jonathan Irons. She gets involved in this case through, I don't know if it was through her ministry or what, but got involved with the details of the Jonathan Irons case, where he was wrongfully convicted of, I believe it was a home invasion crime and armed robbery, and was serving almost 50-year sentence. And just recently they were able to get that overturned and get the brother out of prison. And I think he's just now going to be a free man as an adult. And that a lot of that was speared on by Maya Moore using her platform and giving up what she loved to pursue action, real action, and to help this brother to be informed and involved in her community through her Christian ministry. How do you not respect that, right? So DeMarvion Overshown and many athletes across the world have been inspired by what Maya Moore has done. I'm not saying that every single athlete is going to be out here being a civil rights activist, but I think everyone's realizing how they can better leverage their platforms. And sometimes, if I'm the one, like a DeMarvion Overshown or a Brennan Eagles, that's giving up everything I love, these guys love football. Don't get it twisted. They wouldn't be where they're at, and they wouldn't be as productive as they've already been if they just were laissez-faire and casual about the game. So the folks that are critical of that, or even calling them soft and saying that these kids are entitled and all this type of stuff, I actually disagree with that sentiment. I think it's quite the opposite. I just laid out the schedule these guys go through every day. And if you're injured, the physical, rehab and treatment you have to go through, that's anything but soft. But if you haven't experienced it and haven't been through it, then you're speaking from a position of ignorance. So I encourage you guys, again, go check out some day in the lives and get educated on what these guys have to go through on a regular basis. That being besides the point, I'm proud of DeMarvion Overshown. I hope he comes back and plays, just like I want Brennan Eagles back in uniform. But I support these young men. I'm proud of them. I do think that UT needs to have a little bit more transparency with what their plans are, maybe issuing a statement, and keep their foot on the gas. If you want to preach urgency to the kids, then you have to lead with that same level of urgency within your program and within your university. So curious to see what you guys have to say about this, and I encourage the discussion in the comment section below. Anyway, I'm out. Horns always up.